Hey, dude.
So we are here with Richard Smith. Richard, can you tell everybody what shop you work at and what city you work in?
Currently, I'm in New York City at No Idols Tattoo, which is a badass studio in Chinatown. And also, I'm heading to St. Petersburg, Florida to work with my friends down at Amulet. I'm going to be working there full time and doing every 2 months at No Idols, coming up for like 2 weeks, so I'll still have like a New York City presence and be working based out of That's the idea.
Why are you leaving New York City?
Because my best friend and my roommate moved out, and it broke my heart. And he's going to San Diego to work with some fucking awesome tattooers. And I've been in New York City for 8 years. It's the only city I know as tattooing wise. I'm not from there, but I'm only a New York City tattooer. And but all my family's back home, and I could use it. I could use a change and skip a few winters and tattoo in Florida full time and work part time in New York City. I still love New York City. It's my kind of city. It's my kind of pace. I love people that talk fast and drive crazy and don't dilly dally in line for coffee, and get their day moving, But I've gotten a lot out of the city, and maybe I don't need to be there full time anymore, I'm not born and bred there, so.
You work at No Idols currently with John Mesa and a crew of other guys. Can you say who else works there?
You got Gabriel, whose last name I never pronounce right, but I always say Pendejo. He's a badass jack of all trades. Matt Triano is a badass. Matt Buck and John Mesa own the place. We got a new guy, Basilio, in there. Then there's me. And geez, I hope I didn't forget somebody. I think that's it. That's the whole crew. We got an apprentice, Skylar, laying around. It's a more intimate shop. It's a big like private studio setting, in the sense that it's on the second floor, and we only just put signage out a few months ago, everyone just takes care of their own kind of thing,
Working in a shop with exceptional artists, how motivational is that to drive you to do better tattoos and better work?
Less than you think, because I'm pretty lazy. No, it is. It's really great. You always want to be around. I've never really been in a situation where I've been at a shop where I've not been inspired by the guys I'm with. Maybe I've just been lucky enough, or I've chosen correctly. But I can't imagine being at a shop where the guys aren't interested in looking at what you're doing, and you're not interested in looking at what they're doing, and you want to kind of one-up them in a way, or feel comfortable enough with each other to actually give each other real critiques, not just fucking, yeah, dude, looks good, and then you never get better, like, I'm not afraid to tell somebody they got a wonky thing and they need to change it, and I don't want them to hold back on me. And I feel like I've always been around guys like that, too.
A shop like Grand Reaper that you mentioned before.
Down in San Diego.
Yeah. That shop is just full of
intimidating artists that work there.
Feed off each other.
Yeah. And now, and now I plan on going out there a lot too, out in San Diego. I love San Diego as well, and I love all those guys that work at that shop. And like I said, my roommate moved, and that's where he's going. So I'm gonna go bother him as much as possible.
I would spend as much time out there as possible.
Those guys are incredible. They're also some of the nicest. Everyone that we're talking about right now are also like some of the nicest fucking people I've ever met in my life. Chris out there at Grand Reaper. John and Matt and the rest of the crew that I work with at No Idols, everyone at Amulet down in St. Petersburg, Florida. These are like some of the best, nicest people, They're so generous. They're so, I don't know what to say. Just talking out of my ass, They're just perfect people.
I follow what you're saying. The New York tattoo scene is very unique. There's a lot of tattoo shops there that have been there a very long time. Can you get a little insight on how the scene is different from other cities?
I don't know. I don't know if I have anything crazy that I would say about it. It's New York City is just bigger and faster and nuttier than almost every other city in the country, at least, especially on the East Coast. And the tattoo scene follows suit. You know what I mean? You can. I don't know. I don't know what I would say. I don't know what I would say about the scene. It's New York tattooing. It's fucking, everyone there is a badass, but there's also, there's a million fucking scratchers too, but maybe that's pretty common in most cities nowadays. I'm not sure. Tattooing is so huge, but the cream always rises to the top, so I only pay attention to those badasses. And New York City's got fucking a lot of them.
Oh yeah, there's a long list of artists up there that are doing exceptional work.
Legends of tattoo, and they always will be, you know what I mean? Impossible to keep up, it seems,
Yesterday, when I was walking around, I was noticing when you were doing consultations with walk-ups, you were doing it on an iPad, a large iPad.
Yeah.
When did you convert to the digital technology? And how do you think it's positively impacted your workflow process?
Well, I switched 2 years ago, actually, almost this month, because I remember the first time I really used it was 2 years ago at the Richmond Convention, which is where we're at now, if that's not being mentioned, which is also my favorite convention ever, and I will always do it. Such good guys and promoters here.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
With the iPad itself and with doing everything digitally, it's really great, especially if you're already experienced with well, I'm going to stop what I was about to say. It's good in every way. It's efficient, it's fast, so I like that as a guy who mostly consider myself a walk-in tattooer, you know. It paid for itself in 3 shifts, you know. I was able to do 7 more tattoos over a weekend, you know, with the speed and efficiency that the iPad lets you get away with, you know, without sacrificing any real quality and design at all. I don't think so. I see a lot of younger tattooers or apprentices and stuff using that stuff and using iPads, and I think, I mean, who am I to say if that's wrong or not? I think you should draw on paper, you know, and I've been craving drawing on paper again a lot, and I've done little sketches on it, but it's hard. You're used to it. You're used to drawing fast. But I've barely drawn on paper since I started using it. It's an incredible tool that I don't think any of us really predicted we were going to use. You know, I think when the iPad came out, however long ago, 8 years ago, we're like, this is stupid. Who the fuck needs this? And now, if that thing broke right now, I would go to an Apple store and buy another one today if they charged me twice as much for it, because I depend on it that much, you know. I'm not afraid to say it, you know, it's a fucking great tool. There's no way around it.
I think it's beneficial from a client's perspective too, because they were able to watch you draw and give input right away without you having to be like, I'll be back in 20 minutes with them.
Totally. You can just go, oh yeah, check it, I can do that. Yeah, I can flip that, you know. I can make that a little bigger, you know. Also, just to be real about it, they're kind of impressed by it. They're like, ooh, you know, and you're like, check it out, you know, and that's good, you know.
Over the past year or so, probably a year, longer than a year, you kind of migrated your style to more of a black and gray.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there a reason why you went away from color? I know you still do color tattoos.
I still do, plenty of them. It's 50-50, you know.
Is there a reason why you started doing more black work?
There's no, you know, simple as this. I just got more requests for it. I started doing stuff with that style a little bit. I wasn't making a conscious effort to really push in that direction at all. I just did a few things and they turned out pretty cool, and I was like, oh shit, I can have this look, you know, that's pretty rad, you know. And again, back to the walk-in thing, it started with just experimenting with trying to make smaller tattoos with walk-ins and stuff. You know, you get a lot of like, can we make it a little smaller? I want it as small as possible, and they want these like rendered things, tiny on their wrists. And I realized I was able to sorry, I got like 2 hours of sleep last night. I was able to accommodate better using that style for these like smaller tattoos, and I was just trying to make walk-in people happy. Again, I wasn't trying to like change my style in any way. I was just trying to be able to do a better tattoo faster, get them out the door and do it without being like, well, we're gonna have to do that this big, and then they're like, well, I don't want a tattoo that big, and they leave. I'm like, yeah, I can fucking render that thing that small. Let's do it, you know. And then applying it to something as simple as flowers and roses, you know, gets a real standout look to it. And then you do one, and then you get a request for 10 more, and then it just, you know, it snowballs like that, you know. It looks good. I agree that it looks good. Shit, you know.
They look fantastic.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. People like them, so I keep doing them. That's it. I don't really get bored of it. But no, there was no conscious effort. It just kind of happened through necessity of wanting to take care of clients. That's really it, you know. I didn't feel forced to do it, but it happened, and it was nice, and it changed the way I think about approaching certain images, and now I can kind of offer those things because I love doing these like color bomb saturated tattoos, and I love the finesse that I found with doing this kind of black and gray light shading thing that I've stumbled upon, really, you know what I mean? Yeah, I guess that's probably an answer.
We're here at the Richmond show this weekend.
It's Best tattoo convention ever.
Yes, it's an excellent show in Richmond, Virginia, put on by Jesse Smith. What other?
And Kenny Brown. Don't forget about Kenny Brown. Yep. Tattoo Revival, Fredericksburg.
Yep, both of them.
Not to take away from Jesse and the guys at Loose Grow. Those guys are awesome, for sure.
What other conventions do you typically do? What other conventions do you love going to?
I don't like going to any, except Richmond. That's a real answer. Yeah. It's the only convention I currently do.
How long have you been doing Richmond?
I think this is my 6th year. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Jesse seems
6
to be
years.
doing some really great stuff with the show, and he wants to progress it and make it even bigger, which is awesome because this is the first year I've attended, and it's an unbelievably great show, and I can't wait to attend.
How fucking good is this show?
Yeah.
You see, look at all these people, and everyone's getting tattooed. Every tattooer is working. Everyone seems happy. So many good people here.
And plus, I mean, additionally, outside for a family's perspective, they have stuff outside for kids to do.
Yeah.
They got great food outside, live bands, art going on. They just auctioned off like a ton of art that raised a lot of money for charity. So
Killer,
it's awesome to see
killer
them
art
give
out
back
there.
to the local community too. So you only do, I mean, like, do you do other shows at all?
I've done other shows.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, we all know, is like a fucking monster of a show on the East Coast. It's just too much. It's just too fucking big. I did that for a few years. I did that for like 4 years, you know, and there was overlap. I used to do Salt Lake, which used to be the same promoters, CJ and Nate. They do that. They used to do this show,
Yes.
And they're here, but now it's turned over to Kenny and Jesse over the last 3 years. So I used to do that and bounce over there. I don't do that anymore. You know, I've done a few conventions. I got no real answer on conventions. I really only
sometimes
do this
artists
one,
just
you know.
like, I love this show, and every year
It's so
I make
worth
sure I
it.
get there.
Yeah.
And it seems like Richmond's one of those shows that people really respect and love coming to.
It's, you know, I mean, I don't think this will offend anybody, but, you know, Richmond kind of was doing this, and they turned it around. They I don't know what it takes to run a convention at all, so I'm not going to say anything like I know, but whenever they turned it over to Jesse and Kenny, and I don't know, maybe it was a location thing too. This used to be downtown in the convention center, and it always seemed a little empty, and there was always quality artists there, but you could see like the vibe wasn't, you know, when people aren't getting tattooed, you could be in a great mood, but not be in the greatest mood. You're like, all right, well, what the fuck am I doing here? And once they moved it out here, you know, which I would say would be the Sticks, but I don't know anything about this area. It's just not downtown. Somehow it's just packed and slamming, and everyone's in when people are making money and they're tattooing shit, they want to tattoo all day, you know?
Energy's high.
Yeah,
Yep.
you see people, how many people were tattooing until, you know, midnight, 1 in the morning last
show
night?
went-
Because they want to be here, they want to do it. It's not like, fuck, you know what I mean? It's just
I
like
was
such a
down
good
until
energy.
midnight last night, and it was pretty crowded down in that lower area still. And they
Yeah.
were kicking people out if you weren't tattooing.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see so many people come through here yesterday. Every day has been really crowded.
Yeah. This is just, I guess more of my experience over the last few years with conventions would be maybe to repeat what I've heard with the guys I work with, some of the guys that know Idols. You know, John Mesa does a lot of conventions. He jumps around and he does these shows and that shows, and I won't mention any specifically. But honestly, over the last year, he's done maybe 5 or 6, and he kind of comes home every time. I'm like, how was the show? And he's like, I don't know, you know, and he kind of does one of these, and it's nothing bad, but it's just not awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to go back to New York and they go, how was Richmond? And I'm like, you guys are fucking idiots for not coming to Richmond. What are you doing, you know? It's the best fucking show, I think.
So-
It sounds like I'm sucking someone's dick here, but I'm not.
No,
I
no,
love
totally
this.
agree.
I love this fucking convention, you know?
So we asked this question to a lot of artists, just as a general question. If you had a magic wand to change something about the tattoo industry, what would it be?
I don't know if you're gonna get a good answer out of me for that. If I could magically change something about tattooing, what would it be? Maybe it would be nothing. I don't know. If I had any complaints about it, they probably would be me repeating something I don't know much about. I hear there's a lot of corporate stuff getting involved in tattooing. I don't know if that's good or bad for it. I don't know enough about it to
Let's go the opposite. What's
Yeah.
one thing that you love so much about it?
That's maybe a harder question to ask or to answer as well, harder than you might think. I love so much about it. It's fucking tattooing, man. It's cool. It could be maybe that's the best answer. Is the simplest answer. Is it's still fucking cool, you know. And we can be princesses sometimes and complain about little stuff, you know. But like, look what the fuck we do. And maybe that's probably a common answer that a lot of people might say.
I totally understand.
But fucking draw on people, man. Just like shoot the shit with people and draw on people. There's not much to. Everyone's got their shit. Everyone can have a bad day. Fuck, you can have bad years, you know? I've been in it, but it's fucking tattooing, man. It's so cool. It's so cool, and it can offer you everything if you take advantage, you know? And you don't even I don't think you have to try that hard to take advantage. Tattooing will offer you everything, you know, if you just do it, if you're just not an asshole, you know, I think.
What are some tattoo artists that are kind of flying under the radar that you know of that just kill it, that don't get the recognition or the exposure that you think that they should get?
Oh, here's my chance to Score brownie points with all my friends. First, who I introduced you to this weekend, Tyler Pawelczyk out of Scranton, who owns Black Casket Tattoo. If you're not paying attention to him, I think you're silly. Or maybe you think his tattoos suck. Maybe they do, but they don't. Tyler Pawelczyk is a badass, one of the hardest workers, so focused. Watching that guy go from where he was just a couple years ago to his stride that he's hitting right now, and he's blown. I think he's going to be a bigger deal in the next year for sure.
His work is
it's happening. It's so good. It's so consistent. It's perfect. Just perfect tattoos. That's it. That's the only way to say it. It's perfect tattoos. Who else? I'm thinking about guys that are here in Richmond actually right now. James Cumberland, you familiar with him? I've been quoted, I'm sure, a million times as saying he's one of my favorite tattooers, if not probably my favorite tattooer at certain points of my career. I'm in awe at that guy's, again, such a hard worker. He does perfect tattoos. Yeah, every tattoo he does is a perfect fucking tattoo. And he's not trying to do whatever. I'm not going to go on about James. He's so good. James Cumberland, Tyler Pawelczyk, my good friend Michael Kelly, who's from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and has just been in New York City tattooing with us with me and my roommate for the last 2 years, and is now heading to Chris's shop out in San Diego. Michael Kelly, badass, hitting a stride right now, and I think a lot more people are going to be paying attention, as he keeps doing his thing. And again, disciplined, hard worker. Would rather draw than do anything. It seems like, very different from me. I'm like hyper procrastinator. I'd rather try and write guitar riffs or something and trying to avoid drawing, which is silly, but that's me. Who else? Hold on, let me think. Give me one more second here. You can edit this however you want.
Nope.
Let's see. Under the radar artists. There's probably, I don't know. No, I'm thinking too hard. Okay, we can move on. Am I even in this camera? Am I leaning off of it?
No, you're good. You're good. In regards to for future plans for late 2018, early 2019, I know you're moving, but do you have any plans aside from that?
That's the plan right now, is to move. And you know what? I think when I end up back in Florida, I have even though I'm going to keep coming up to New York every 2 months to work. I think I'm going to want to try and travel a little bit more, because the thing with New York is you can generate so much income up there, and you're fucking doing it to pay your rent. And we all do fine up there, but it's expensive to live. It's almost always taking a financial hit to leave New York, it seems. At least for me. Maybe not for everybody. There's plenty of way better artists that are able to generate more income than I can even think about.
Traffic up there.
Yeah, it's just easier. A weekend, especially when I was doing walk-ins, you know what I mean? When I was just grinding away in a street shop, which is my favorite thing to do ever. The amount of money I can make just like shooting the shit with 30 clients and tattooing them all weekend is double what I would do, paying for a hotel room and a convention fee and traveling somewhere. And that's kind of probably why I tapered off with not doing conventions. I was like, it's fun enough, but it's like, and not that everything's about money, obviously. I would do this and make zero money and come to Richmond. I love it so much. But it was like that, where I'm like, man, it's just not worth it. Like, I'm going to make a ton of money this weekend doing walk-ins in Manhattan, or I could go to wherever, which might be a fine time, but you feel it financially, a little bit for the weekend. And again, it's not always about that, but
it comes into play though.
I forgot what the question was that you even asked. Future plans, maybe to travel more, because I'll be home basing out of St. Petersburg, Florida. Cost of living's a little bit cheaper, and I'll probably, living in Manhattan, and I assume maybe every big city, it's hard to leave the city. You're used to that energy. Living in Florida is great, and I've done it most of my life.
It's just different.
But I'll probably want to get out more. I don't have a desire to leave Manhattan that much. I fucking love living in New York City. So when it's like, hey, you want to go do this thing? And I'm like, that sounds nice, but I'm going to hang out in New York. I'm in New York. Why would I ever want to leave? It's the raddest city ever. So in Florida, St. Petersburg is also, I think, one of the raddest cities ever, but I'll probably, want to get around a lot more. And it'll probably be, if we're going back to that financial thing I was talking about, it'll probably weigh out the same of like, cool, I can make good money in Florida, but people don't throw around money in Florida like they throw around money in Manhattan, for sure. So going elsewhere, that would probably even out of like, all right, I can generate the same income. Yeah, I won't be taking a loss by leaving home, kind of thing. Yeah. Again, to reiterate, not that is even the first thing on the list of like what I really think about, but it's an honest thing to think about, I think, So specifically, if I have any plans, no, but I have a feeling I'm going to want to travel a lot more, especially just to keep going out to San Diego. I also got a good friend, Alex, out in San Diego. His name's he goes by El Chimu on Instagram. Also a little under the radar. I think he's under the radar. Such a badass tattooer. That just popped into my head. Sorry, I know that was like 3 questions ago.
No, you're fine. If anybody's interested in getting tattooed by you, how should they reach out to you?
I'm easy to find like everyone else. I got an email, I got an Instagram. I don't do much else past that. Richard Smith Tattoo, richardsmithtattoo.com. That's it. There's a button that sends information to me. I'll send you information back.
We appreciate it, and we are super excited to meet you here at this convention this weekend. We love your work, and we love following to see the art that you produce.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for
It's very flattering. Very flattering indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you.